talking about special interest areas, and I have kindly had the offer from Cecilia and Gay to come along and talk to us all and answer all of our questions. This recording will go up onto the North Coast website once it's been edited and done whatever it needs to be done, and it'll be accessible through there for anyone who would like to look at it there. So I might pass over to Cecilia and Gay. They can introduce themselves, and we can go from there, if that's okay.
Thanks, Tara. So hi, everyone. I'm Cecilia. I am one of the state commissioners for special interest areas. There's two of us, so if you need any help in this space, please call on us. I'm also a member of Gay's training team, so I have been supporting leaders in this space for just a little while now, hasn't it been, Gay? So that's kind of my background, but I'll pass on to Gay and she'll give a little spiel.
Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Gay Green. I'm the Deputy Assistant Chief Commissioner for Adults in Scouting and Training. My God, it's long, but it does fit on a badge. I'm excited to jump back in and do some special interest areas. It's like old time's sake when we were upskilling New South Wales into what you now know as the current program. So this is meeting number 2 for me tonight. I will be bowing out just before 8 o'clock if we haven't finished. Don't think I'm banding you all. I have another meeting on the go at 8 o'clock, which will sign me up for the night. So I'm glad you could all join us. We hope tonight you can take away something. In fact, you can take away a lot, and that you can inspire your Joey's Cub Scouts or whatever section you're working in to jump on and get some special interest areas. So I'm going to hand back to the expert, that's Cecilia. I'm just here for the ride.
Thanks, Gay. So I've just got a couple of slides that I've used in training purposes, both online and in person. So I'm just going to pull those up so you can see some things I'm talking about while we're going through. So we had a bit of a chat with Tara this week just to see where you guys need the most support. And we're talking about special interest areas and goal setting with your youth members. Okay, so it's not just about the SIAs. You probably know quite a bit about them by now, but how do we get better at goal setting and that creative thinking at the beginning of the journey? So I'm just going to do a quick run through about special interest areas. Thinking of something you've always wanted to achieve. This is where we really want our youth members to have a look at their interests. What are they wanting to achieve? And how does other elements of their life relate into scouting? The special interest areas are each Scout's chance just to do that. As there are 6 different special interest areas with resources to help Scouts to think of what to do. So we have creating a better world, STEM and innovation, adventure and sport, growth and development, arts and literature, and the environment. Okay, so these are very broad areas, right? So pretty much anything that our youth members are interested in could potentially fit into one of these 6 areas, right? So the special interest areas work, we're going to start with our creative thinking, our goal setting, picking the special interest area, outlining the project, presenting it to the unit council, and this is really important. The unit council approves the plan before the youth member starts the project. Now that is really the most important part of that. And then they get to do it. And afterwards, then they review it, right? So we're looking at reviewing the project with their fellow youth members using the SPICES as the review tool. Now, for each section, there are different hours, but our SIAs can be done as individuals or in a patrol, but every individual needs to have their own goals and the standard is their personal best. The Special Interest Area Award is signed off by the Unit Council and this is where our youth leading adult supporting part of our Scout method is really critical. So for our Joey Scouts, we're only looking at 2 hours, Cub Scouts 4, Scouts 8, Venture Scouts 12, and Rover Scouts 18. So as they progress through the sections, there is more of a time commitment to their projects. But a Joey Scout, we're talking about 2 hours, including planning and reviewing. Like, it's not just the doing in that time. And I can tell you now, Joey Scouts will take a lot of time to plan and do. So that 2 hours does fill up very quickly. And then when we get through to Rover Scouts, those 18-hour projects, most rovers I know and have worked with are doing projects that are more than 18 hours because they tend to be larger, more prolonged time frame projects. So we try and encourage them to break them down into stages, and they might be able to receive multiple SIAs for the different stages of their project. And why are the SIAs important? So we're looking at having open-ended tasks, right? So this is about project management and goal setting. Personal progression, it's what our youth members are interested in and how they come to be able to do what they want to achieve personally. Our goal setting, our plan, do and review, which is core to so much we do in scouting, our new challenges, experiential learning, and they are inclusive. So when we're talking about our programming, we want something that's fun, adventurous, challenging, and inclusive. The SIAs are a really great vehicle for that. They inspire personal growth. They're easy to adapt. They keep our program relevant. They keep our program relevant. So this is something in our program. There isn't a checklist. We're talking to our youth members. We're seeing what they're interested in, and we're really making sure that it is current and contemporary with what our youth members want to achieve. So the special interest areas are a bit of shift in thinking from what we've done previously. So our goal setting is by our youth members. Our youth need to learn how to goal set. Peers need to learn how to support each other's goals, and educating parents on a flexible program. So this is something that is a little bit different from what we've done previously in scouting, but it is really critical in terms of building our life skills for our youth members. It's a personal challenge. Each Scout will develop their own activities, which will vary in type, scope, and quality, because remember, it's our youth members' personal best. It's not a standardized best, it's their personal best. And flexibility in our programming. Our programming needs to leave space for Scouts to run their activities in a timely manner, right? So we're looking at our special interest areas projects really come outside of our normal programming week to week. These are things that our youth members get to achieve outside of that program that they're doing that works with the challenge areas. This is separate, and it's kind of understanding the limitations of a set time project as well. So checklists are out and personal goals are in. So we're talking about SMART goals, and our goal setting needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Now, Gay, can I get you to jump in here and talk about a bit about the goal setting when it comes to introduction to scouting at the beginning of the youth members' journey in the section?
So what we hear from our leaders is, they just don't know what they want to do as a special interest project. So when we are, our introduction to section is the perfect time to get to know our youth member, because there's a whole section there about, you know, what do you like to do, etc. And that's where you can get some ideas to help prompt them about doing some special interest projects. So that way you can, that's a really great way to actually introduce them to that part of the achievement program. And so like some things that we've worked with, and when I say we, I don't work with the youth a lot these days, but when I have worked with the youth, because I maintain my currency, we chat about, so like this young Cub Scout, he was a keen soccer player. And I said, you know, what position do you play? I'm goalie. And my son used to be a goalie. I hated him being goalie. I've got to say, I was always that mother went, please don't miss the ball. And so I said, you know, is that the position you've always wanted to play? No, I actually want to kick a goal myself one day. And so it was about, okay, so why don't you chat to your coach about changing your position? And he went, I really wanted to, but I just wasn't sure. So we talked about what was the best way to approach the coach to go, I really want to have a go at kicking a goal instead of saving a goal. And that became his special interest project. So it was something he was already doing. It doesn't mean that the special interest projects are not about starting something new, or they can be, but they can be something they're already doing and taking it to the next level, or trying something different in what they're doing. So this young man went and spoke to his coach, and the next game that they played, he was put in as a forward and he scored a goal. and he was so excited. So by the time, when he started his project, he started that, this was the plan that he wanted to do. So this was part of the planning. He had to speak to the coach. He had to practice some goal kicking instead of catching, because suddenly his headspace had to be no hands, from being the goalie to using his foot more. And then the doing was actually playing the game, and then the reviewing was how he felt about what he got out of scoring the goal. And that was his special interest project, and quite obviously it was awarded really well under the sport special interest area. So that was just one example of sitting down and talking to a Joey Scout that had come up to Cubs. And remember, it's not just someone transitioning to the next section. If someone's come in off the street, they also need to do introduction to section. And so it's a really great opportunity to get to know that young person and what floats their boat, and how we can assist them to work what would be the best way to work with a special interest area project. So that's just one example that I've got. I've got a couple more that I can throw into the mix soon. Thanks, Cecilia.
Thanks, Gay. Okay, so as I said, we're talking about SMART goals. If you haven't heard of SMART goals, please feel free to look this up as a concept. There is a lot of information out there, but the main things we're looking at here is that idea that they are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, right? So it is very important that we set realistic goals for our youth members, because if a youth member says they want to fly to the moon, that may be slightly out of the remit of what is possible in scouting. But is there a way for us to adapt that? Can that youth member do a project relating to science and traveling to the moon and the history of that and what comes next, and pop culture references? There's all these different tangents that we can take from that kernel of an idea that seemed unrealistic at that moment, but we could turn into an achievable, realistic project. Okay. So I've got just a little, we don't have 8 minutes, but this is something that I've run a lot, and we're talking about an SIA brainstorm activity. So if everyone wants to take a couple of minutes, I want you to come up with a topic for you to put into the middle of a mind map. All right. So for me, sometimes I use the example of hedgehogs. It's a bit weird, I know, but I do hedgehogs in the middle, and then I break down, okay, what are some things to do with hedgehogs to be that second layer, as you can see in that GIF, right? So I say habitat, diet, pop culture references, where in the world are they found, that kind of thing. And then I break it down even further. Now, in that third layer, it may be talking about more specific things. So for a hedgehog in pop culture, I might talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. If I'm talking about their habitat, I might be talking about woodlands in England, or if I'm talking about cultural and country connotations, there's cafes in Japan that have hedgehog cafes. Those kinds of things come into mind. So it takes that bigger project and it breaks it down into smaller, more tangible parts, right? And more clearly defined topics that an SIA could turn into. So what I want each of you to do is just quickly write down something in the middle and break it down into a second layer and then maybe a third layer. Maybe it's your favorite TV show or something, and hobby that you like to do, or an interest of yours in scouting. But it's really about breaking it down into those other topics. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a second so I can see all your beautiful faces. And
we could perhaps they could put them in the chat, Cecilia, so that everyone can see them.
Yeah.
So up the top of your screen, you'll see a bubble that says chat. That will open up an area on the right-hand side of your screen, and that's where you can type in your thought processes there.
So yeah, I'll give you a few minutes to just think of something, and if you could share them in the chat would be great. Okay, so Joe's put in the chat. So in case you guys can't see the chat, Joe started with the turtle rescue as the first layer, looking at the rescue reasons, volunteering, diet and protection and education. The second layer, visit a seabird rescue, watch YouTube videos, National Geographic sites, speech to rescuers, talk and slideshows, collect food in the wild. No, you haven't gone on the wrong tangent, Joe. That's really good. It's turning a bigger idea into more tangible options that your youth members could potentially, if this is something they were interested in, turn into a project. Does anyone else want to speak to what their mind map was? Sue, you're busy writing it in?
I'm writing my thing.
Okay. Did anyone else have any? Got a few. Good one, Joe. Glad to say youth leading in action right there. So Sue, while you're finishing typing up, Gay, did you want to bring up what you're ready to share? So that's ready to go?
Happy with that. So I know you all know the website where you can find resources for everything program, and that's of course pr.scouts.com.au. And on that website you'll find a special interest area project planning tool. There's one for Joey and Cubs, and I'm going to kind of look at that section at the moment because that's probably where my heart is, coming from the Cubs section myself, and that's of course where my granddaughter is scouting at the moment. So what the Cub Scout leaders and I'll drop them right into it. What the Cub Scout leaders at East Gosford do is that they use this planning tool perfectly. So they print off the planning tool and they have a night where they're writing down their plans for what they want to do as a special interest project. And they get each Cub Scout to sit down and start writing in the planning tool. They make it very clear that they're not marking spelling. It's all about their words, which is really important because some Cubs, get really nervous about having to write because they can't spell. I'll put my hand up. I can't spell for words. So they write all that down and it goes to the unit council in that format so that the unit council can see it. The Cub Scout leader also then logs into Scouts Terrain and puts all this information into Scouts Terrain for them so that we all understand that at Cub Scouts sometimes, it's a little bit hard for them to work their way around Scouts Terrain. So the leader jumps in and signs in as them, which they're quite able to do, and puts all the information about their project into Scouts Terrain. And then sends them a message via their closed Facebook group to their parents saying that your special interest areas projects are in Scouts Terrain. and have been approved by the unit council, and you're ready to go. So that way the kids now know that the youth members now know that they can start their projects. So I'm going to go through some myth-busters in a little bit later, and I'm sure Cecilia's got some too, because we see all sorts of things of people trying to put special interest projects into place, which is why I think that they become so difficult sometimes. So here's a hint: they're not a unit project. Can't get the whole unit to run the special interest project, because that would be very hard to find. Let's do an average unit, 12 kids all wanting the same thing at the same time as their goal. Seriously, it doesn't happen. So that's why every person has to set their own goals. They could possibly be running, doing the same kind of thing, but they have a different goal. Thanks, Harrison. Have a great meeting. You'll be amazing. I know. Also in pr.scouts.com.au is a whole series of videos, and I'm going to share. I'll have to stop sharing for a minute so I can pick up the sound on this one and include sound. Where's that little button? Sorry, just looking for the button that says include the sound.
It should be when you press share.
Got it, found it, just couldn't find it at the time. So here is a video which you'll find on pr.scouts.com.au under other resources videos. There's some really great videos there that you can actually play for your kids so that they get a really good understanding. I'm going to play this one now. Can you hear that?
A special interest area is a project or activity that we can do as an individual, a patrol, or as a unit, based on goals we have set. It's about trying new things that excite and challenge us. There are 6 broad skill areas that we may choose to explore. These include
adventure and sport,
environment,
arts and literature,
growth and development,
creating a better world,
STEM and innovation.
Your chosen project will ideally be something that is personal and meaningful to you, but it will also need to challenge you at the appropriate level. If it's too easy, it's not going to be a challenge.
I came up with my project idea because the parents of one of our cubs put up just a post in our group Facebook. My daughter has a couple of disabilities, and that means that we're only just teaching her to ride a bike now that she's about 13. The cubs were having a bike day, and he thought it would be really great if we could devise some kind of trailer or something that could be used by her. So I thought, I have a few ideas. I've seen a couple of things that work. I may have kind of an idea of how to do it. And there was another couple of people in the crew who went, if you gave me a little while to think about it, I might be able to come up with something. So we decided, let's get together, work out a vague plan and see where we can go and if we can get anything out of it. Because we basically thought the best idea of trying to get something together was to get old bikes and bike parts and that kind of thing. So we went to a couple of community forums and just said, hey, if there's anyone who has any bikes or bike parts that they'd be able to donate, kind of put the story out there, and we got a bunch of donations in. It was really great just being able to get a girl who wouldn't have been able to participate and wouldn't have been able to be part of that, and give her the opportunity to go out and be part of the bike day, like with her pack. Yeah, one of my favourite moments was when her and her dad came over to test out the trailer after we'd made it up. He took her for a spin down the hill, and they were probably 100 metres away, but you could hear her laughing like all the way from up the hill, and it was just really great to be able to give her that opportunity that she otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to have.
Once we have come up with an idea of what the project goal is, think about some important questions.
When I'm setting a goal, I research using books, online, and asking people who would know about that particular subject. My special interest area that I'm most proud of was when I was in Cub Scouts. I did an animation on the history of scouting. It turned out just the way I wanted it to.
Once you have set goals, your unit council will need to check them to make sure that the goals are appropriate and there is support for you.
When I'm setting a goal, I get post-it notes and write down each step to achieving said goal, then lay them out in a linear math fashion to allow myself to understand what I need to do first. I get other people to help me achieve my goals when it would be too risky or I do not have the required skills to be able to achieve said goal. A project I'm planning to do is repairing a lighting console, which is a STEM and innovation project for special interest areas. My expected outcome is to learn a few things. First up, to improve my technical skills and to improve my understanding of the DMX protocol. I think this project very much covers the intellectual spices area. One of the things I think I'll enjoy about this project is satisfying my natural curiosity for technological items.
It's also great to know that there is always help and support around to help us achieve our special interest areas. You can speak to a mentor, a subject matter expert, or your patrol or unit. Your mentor should be someone you know, who is familiar in the special interest area that your project focuses on. Maybe they are a more knowledgeable scout. Maybe we will inspire other scouts to chase their own adventures doing projects like ours. Even better, you could be their mentor. If the project meets some of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, or is in the category of creating a better world, don't forget to submit it as a Messenger of Peace project on the WOSM website too.
This project is meaningful to me because I can help out with charities such as Cancer Council, and I'm also joining the sections of Scouting Together, which will create more friendships and relationships. And I'm also learning some useful skills. I'm hoping the outcome for this fundraiser will be raising funds for the Cancer Council, and I share my leadership and everyone has a great time in this fundraiser. I know that I have finished this project when I see that everyone's had a good time and everyone's happy, and when the Cancer Council has received their funds. I did have a few mentors, such as my scout leaders, who I could talk to them about my ideas and just make it a really great day. Well, I haven't entered it on the Messages of Peace website yet, but I think I will.
No, but I really should go and submit this project to the Messages of Peace website.
So start thinking today about how you could inspire and challenge yourself with a special interest area project.
Those videos are available for everyone on pr.scouts.com.au. So when my granddaughter became a Cub Scout a couple of years ago, I know I look way too young to have a granddaughter, but I do. She's 10 next week. She wasn't really good at colouring in. And so when she became a Cub Scout, I said, so what badge are we going to work with first? What do you want to do? What's special? Let's talk about special interest areas. And so we sat down and she went, I really don't know what to do. And I said, well, what do you want to get better at? What do you want to improve in what you do? And she said, well, I really love colouring in, but I suck at it. Hey, Gran. I went, yeah. So that became our weekly project. So it started with her plan where she wrote down that she wanted to improve her colouring in and make a colouring in book. So she submitted that to the unit council and it was approved. And so that became our little thing on a Thursday afternoon. When I picked her up from school, she would come in and we'd sign into the computer and she would find some pictures that she would like to colour in. I had to help, of course. So that became, we sat down at the kitchen table and we coloured in together and we chatted and we had afternoon tea and it was really fun. And then we collected all the pictures that she had coloured in and put them into a book and made a book out of it. And that became her art and literature special interest project. And that was her very first badge as a Cub Scout. It really wasn't a hard thing and she was so excited, and that really encouraged her to then go on and do some other special interest project. Not all kids will want to work on a special interest project on their own. So this is where we talk about patrols. And even, I know it said you can do it as a unit. If you've got a big unit, it is very hard to do a special interest project with a big unit. But if you're only working with a small unit, as long as each of them have set a goal, you possibly could do something as a unit. But a patrol doesn't have to be all Cub Scouts, or it can be Joey Scouts, Cub Scouts, Scouts, even venturers within one patrol. It's all about them all having that same likeness, that same thing that they like together to be able to do it. So that was the story I wanted to share with you about my granddaughter. That was her first badge she got in Cubs. And she had the best time making that colouring in book, and of course improved her skills in colouring in. She's working on her dance badge at the moment because she's just gone into dancing. Glad I'm not paying for that one. And doing competition dancing and everything and improving every week. So we go back to that introduction to section and going, find out what rocks their world, find out what they like, and then see how it fits into one of the 6 special interest areas. And is that something they can do on their own, or would they like some buddies to work with them to be able to make it fun? And then the rest of the unit can, on their review and showing them what they've done and stuff, they can then other youth members in the unit can get inspired by it. So that's all I have at the moment. Thanks, Cecilia.
Thanks, Gay. So I'm just looking, we've got a couple of questions in the chat, which I will answer now, and then we'll keep going. So Sujatha, you have asked, will there be time frame for the unit council to give a decision for the SIA project? So usually if a youth member is wanting to present a special interest area, it would just be part of your standard unit council, however you run them. So whether that's at the hall or at another location, a unit council doesn't have to be a formal occasion, but your youth members can submit their proposals through Scouts Terrain, and the unit council can see whether something has been submitted, or a youth member can actually just send through what their plan's going to be in another format, as long as the unit council has a copy of it. And it can be really quick. If the unit council feels that the youth member is setting a project that fits into a SMART goal and also is challenging them enough, then it could be just a simple yes, you can start your project. If it's something that they feel needs a bit of edits, it might need to be revised to be more achievable, then that's something that the youth member, they can give feedback to the youth member to go, hey, we think you should change this and this. Or if they feel it's not pushing them enough, it's like, hey, maybe you want to up it a little bit. And that's a conversation that can also be happening with the youth member and their patrol leader, right? So make sure that you're using the patrol system, having your APL and PL really guiding those conversations around those projects. So then we also have Gay has just shared the link to the Messengers of Peace guidelines, and that's one of the places where people can upload their projects to WOSM, so the World Organization of the Scout Movement.
And it also has projects that are there, so you can actually have a look and see what people have uploaded.
Yeah. So Messengers of Peace, that's one element that fits into the wider special interest area space. I'm also going to show you some photos of some other projects. So that will be captured on this recording, and if you're interested, I'm also able to send through those images to Tara so that she can disseminate them. So I'll talk through some of the projects that are featured in a second. And so, yeah, it's really about, I completely appreciate being a visual learner myself, that it's really handy to have those examples on available. But again, it comes back to having that conversation first with your youth members to see what they're interested in, because we don't necessarily want them to be duplicating the project of someone else has completed. It's about seeing what they want to complete. So just going to pull up, I need to share this before I pull it up. So I'm just going to pull up, this is an example of a completed planning sheet that Gay showed you earlier. So this is a youth member that's a Cub Scout who wanted to have their big picture goal is to explore and cook food from a different country, specifically Spain. They said that as an individual goal, the people who were supporting them are their family and Kimber, so that would potentially be their Cub Scout leader. Who else is going to be involved? Mum will help me shop and she'll help supervise me in the kitchen. Their specific individual goal is cooking a Spanish meal for their family. Their learnings from attempting and doing the project, learning how to cook Spanish food, learning 2 new recipes, some Spanish words and Spanish culture. Then they had their plan, their do, and their review of what they were looking at doing. So find a Spanish meal, choose what meals they want, go shopping, buy the ingredients, read the recipe and cook it, serve it as an appetizer, and then another dish that they were going to be doing, and then reviewing, taking photos, and reporting back to their Cub unit. Right, so I just want you to keep in mind this example that we've got here, and we'll talk about it more again in the review section. Okay, so these are some example projects in their doing phase of some youth members who have actively, these are projects that have been completed. And they're from different sections. So we actually have a couple of Cub Scouts and Joey Scouts, Adventure Scout, a Scout Patrol project also happening here. So in the top left-hand corner, this youth member was doing this project when they were, I believe, when they were a Cub Scout. They wanted to build their own toy truck, but they broke it into 2 projects. First, they taught themselves how to design the truck using CAD on a computer. And then they did a second project where they actually built the truck, woodworked it and everything. Right. So that's the idea of that. If it's a really big project, which for a Cub Scout, this would have been a really big project, breaking it down into more manageable time bites. And they learned 2 new skills out of it. Right. Then you have a Joey Scout in the middle at the top. She was making family portraits using flowers from her garden. So sort of wanting to explore arts and literature, and did this really cute little project. It actually, it's a few years ago now. I'm just like, she's about to be a scout. It scares the bejesus out of me. But she did this really sweet artwork of her family. Then we have, again, a Cub Scout in the top right who used recycled plastics to create a bowl and a plate. So he melted it down and sort of put it in a mold and made the bowl and plate for him to use as his mess kit at other scouting events. You have 2 youth members there who actually created a copy of the logo out of Lego. Then in the bottom left-hand corner is a Adventure Scout who actually was teaching themselves how to embroider and used, again, the Scout logo as their image that they wanted to learn how to embroider with. You've got a Joey Scout making a hand puppet, and then you have this patrol of Scouts who are working together to do some refurbishment in their hall and found this old patrol board, and they didn't want to throw it out. They wanted to update it and make it their own. So they worked with a local sign writing company to create vinyl cutouts of each of their names, and you can see them there actually transferring the vinyl cutouts to the brim of the hat board that they have here that was going to go back up in their hall. So they're just a few examples. As we say, things that our youth members are already doing. So Gabe was talking about how her granddaughter is doing dance, and so is working on a special interest area to do with dance. You can fit in any planned sports that are happening. So martial arts is a great option, any team sports that are playing. If they're doing any other extracurricular activities outside of scouting, bring them in. Make them part of their scouting journey. Like the special interest areas don't, as that we've said, don't need to be something new. They can be doing something that they're already doing and continuing that journey, right? But it's about sort of stepping up their skills in those areas. Same with things like music. So a youth member may be doing the AMEB exams, so the Australian Music Examination Board exams. Now, they take a really long time to prepare for. So if your youth member says, oh, I'm wanting to get my grade 4 in such and such, and it's like, okay, cool. is there a step on the way to it that will take you X number of hours to get to? Because getting to that point might be too big a project. So this is where your unit counsellors come into play to really kind of work out that balance between what's achievable, what's a challenge, and what's actually timely as well. Okay. So when we're getting to the review stage, our youth members are providing a record of their project. Now, that could be for our visual learners, could be some photos, a video record. If someone wants to write a little report reflecting on what they've done with their spices, go for it. Then they reflect on how they've grown through your project with the unit council. Remember, that can start with it depending on the size of your unit. They might actually be to everyone. If it's a larger unit, it may be to their patrol and the unit council and things like that, right? And then remembering it's about the journey, not the destination. If your youth member doesn't quite get to what they set their goal to be, but have actively pursued that goal and things have happened outside of their control, or they've gone, oh, actually, that was too much, but I have learned X, Y, and Z, there's nothing stopping your unit council still awarding that special interest area project.
That is absolutely the most crucial and important thing. No one fails at this. It is not a pass or fail. It is they've done their best at doing that. If they didn't meet their SMART goals, that does not matter. They've had a really good time doing it. That's what matters. So it's really, really important as us as leaders that sit on the unit council as a mentor, that we help the unit council come to that decision, because it's not about a pass or a fail. It's about having fun.
And I'll give you an example of that in my own Baden Powell Scout Award journey. So I am old enough to have not done it on this program, but it's still a relevant project. So what would have been a special interest area project for me in the current program? I wanted to explore astrophotography, and I chose to do this while I was traveling overseas. Now, I hadn't fully taken into account how different public transport is to access regional areas overseas compared to Australia. We actually have some decent public transport to places where you can see stars. And so on that journey, I did my best to take decent photos. I had time restrictions. Suddenly bad weather came into effect, and I got back to Australia and I was like, oh my gosh, this wasn't exactly what I'd planned and things. And my unit went, but you did your best. You had so many other adversities that you had to overcome to even attempt to do this project. Yes, we're going to mark it off. You've done an amazing job. You're going to continue to learn and grow from this project. So that's an example of it was very much about the journey for me, and I still came out with the results, but I know that it was something that would continue to change and challenge me as my life went on, as an interest of mine. Okay. So going back to that youth member who planned to do the Spanish, this is their review sheet that they submitted. So what did they enjoy? Something that I enjoyed about my special interest area is that I got to do the cooking mostly by myself. And what is something they would do differently next time? Something I do differently is to use a deeper pan and flip the tortilla myself without mum breaking it. So they learned that sometimes the help from others may change the outcome of their project. So this youth member sort of thought about what they achieved. They obviously had a good time cooking. They got to do it mostly by themselves, but mum may not have been as helpful as they wanted them to be in this one element. Okay. So as I've said, bigger projects can be broken down into multiple special interest areas. One project or topic may fit into multiple special interest areas. So I'm going to ask a question, and I'm just going to bring the chat back up full screen. How many, what area do you think photography would fit into? People can just yell it out for me. Which one do you think? Of the 6 areas, what do you think it would most likely fit into? Art, yep, art and literature. That tends to be the one. Personal growth, growth and development is another one they can fit into very easily. But let's say that a youth member wants to explore how a camera works, right? So they've really gotten into digital photography, and then they're wanting to go, oh, actually, I want to explore film photography too, and how it works and what's the differences things. So yeah, STEM and innovation. Let's say they suddenly wanted to do a documentary project that is helping understand homelessness in their community. Maybe that's a Create a Better World. We're talking about they want to actually be a photographer that's capturing the goals as they're getting kicked in. They want to be behind the net, or they want to be on the try line. Those kinds of things. We're looking at adventure and sport. All right, and then let's say they're actually interested in capturing the environment and they want to take a macro photography series. Then we could fit that into the environment. So a topic isn't necessarily limited to one special interest area. And so our youth members can explore one topic across multiple things. Where would you put volunteering? So if you're looking at volunteering for anything, really, that's something that I would put in growth and development, or can also go into Create a Better World. So depending on what that project would be, it could fit into a few different areas. Let's say they're volunteering to coach the local football team. Could be an adventure and sport. So seabird rescue. So that one, it could be Create a Better World, could be environment, could be growth and development. So it could fit into any of those areas. So it's up to your youth member to see how do they want to sort of frame those projects, because you'll notice that on one of my previous slides, I'll just go back to it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so on this slide, we said down the bottom, it actually says that each of the youth members have to get 6 special interest areas, but you'll see that the category numbers change. So in Joey Scouts, they have to get it in at least 2 different areas, but in Rope Scouts, they have to get it in at least 4. All right, so with that in mind, sorry, I'm just going to come back to you guys and stop sharing for a sec. So with that in mind, our youth members actually, they can get multiple projects completed in the same special interest area if they wanted to. Now, most of the time when you're working with your youth members, they want to collect them all. They want one of each. So that really hasn't been a big issue for me when I'm working with my youth members. I've worked with Joey Scouts. I'm now a Rover advisor at a region level. So I've gone through the gamut, and now I'm sort of like, okay, and I'm pushing them to go, cool, you want to volunteer, you want to do that for your scout group. I'm like, what are you wanting to achieve for yourself as well? That seems to be the bigger thing for me, is like youth members, they're like, oh, I want to do this for my scout hall, I want to do this for the community. And I'm like, cool, but what are you doing for yourself? Like, that's great that you want to do for the community, but also what do you want to do in your heart? What's something you're interested in that isn't just giving back to the wider world, and having that. So Sujatha, I will talk to that point in a second when it comes to topics like swimming. And so we're just going to pull this back up. I'm very much used to doing this not on a laptop. Okay, so we've talked about bigger projects can be broken down. One project topic could fit into multiple special interest areas. So we're talking about external and extracurricular activities. If your youth member is doing something like debating or tournament of the minds at school, being in a school musical, those kinds of activities can fit into things. in the special interest areas. I would definitely stay away from doing anything that's an assignment at school. Let's not go there, but anything that's an extra thing, great. So access and inclusion. So remembering that these activities have to be the best of our youth members' ability, right? What's their personal best? And then we're talking about crossovers. So when it comes to a special interest area, a youth member can't be just working through their outdoor adventure skills and claim it for both. So Sujatha, you've mentioned swimming. So depending on what is required in their outdoor adventure skills for aquatics, there may be some elements that are to do with the outdoor adventure skills, but if they're doing competitive swimming and they're racing and club meets and things like that, that's a whole other thing. So there may be space for it to fit into both, but making sure there's no overlap. And the other thing I'm talking about crossovers, I'll use astrophotography again as an example. Let's say you have a patrol who's interested in exploring astrophotography. They are planning on hiking into a location so that they can get really good photos with low light. So for them, that hike in is the method that they're getting to their project, right? So that may count towards their outdoor adventure skills, but their actual project is the astrophotography at the site, right? So there are certain times where there's a give and take, but your special interest areas have to be specific goals that don't tend to give recognition in both camps, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Gay?
Yeah, that was where I was going to go with some of the Mythbusters, which is great. I'm just getting flashes on my screen where my team are joining for the next meeting. They're special, unfortunately tonight. That's dead right. It's important that look, it's not about saying no, but it's important that we if we are doing crossovers, that there is clear lines there, that we're not doing the same thing and ticking two different boxes is realistically where we're at. So, yep, the hike in they could do as their stage 5 hiking area in the stages, or as even as part of their adventurous journey. However, when they get there, that's when their special interest area project would start, because that's when they've actually got to where they were going, and that was the goal, was to get there. And so, for instance, travelled to Coonabarabran and hiked to the Warrumbungles, where it's an amazing site to get all the stars, and did their photography, if that's, if they're from that area. So, yeah, it's really important. And also, it also doesn't count towards in their milestone area, because that becomes a lead or an assist where the rest of the group participates, and that doesn't normally happen in a special interest area project as well. So we can't double dip, as we used to call it, in some of these areas. So that was a really great clarification on that. I am going to be really rude and bow out and leave you in the subject matter expert hands here with Cecilia, because this is her role. It was lovely to meet you all. Some we can't see your face, and that's okay. We understand you're on cameras. Any questions, please throw it up in the chat. That chat will be open even after this webinar, and we're happy it'll flash up. We're happy to answer those questions. That's what we hear about. I popped in the chat communications@nsw.scouts.com.au. They love great stories of what our youth members are doing out and about. So if one of your youth members, or in fact all of your youth members, when they're doing these amazing projects, send it to communications, because then people like me don't have to come up with stories all the time, because you're doing it for us. And that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see our youth out having fun scouting. So just from me tonight, thank you. Thank you for what you do for our youth members. Thank you for being amazing leaders. And no matter what you're doing, find the joy in your scout world. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Gay.
Thanks, Gay.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, Cecilia. They're all yours.
Thanks, Gay. Okay, so I'll just, so we've finished all the sort of ideas of special interest area in practice. Then we're talking about mentoring and subject matter experts. Now, these are people who can support your youth members through their project, right? So it could be a fellow scout. It could be, let's say there's a Rover Scout who is actually a black belt in judo, and you've got a scout who's coming up who's kind of wanting that support in that area. So they may be meeting at the same dojo or have that experience outside of scouting and be able to, that Rover Scout might be able to support that younger scout. A leader with expertise in an area. I don't know about you guys, but the things that we do outside of scouting tend to be quite diverse. For example, I'm actually a professional artist and photographer, so that's why I use lots of arts examples when I talk about this stuff. But I also work in education. I have, we've got other leaders who are actually scientists and doctors, professional musicians. You've got parents who have business skills, all of these things. Especially up your way, you'll also probably have parents who work in agriculture, maybe, those kinds of things. So use that expertise. See whether you've got a leader or a parent who might be able to help with those kinds of projects. A member of the community, definitely members of the local community, especially clubs like Rotary, they're really fantastic resources, Rotary and Lions. They may have members that would like to support you. Then you've got teachers or tutors, also really great, and anyone else you can think of. So you're really looking for your subject matter experts in relation to what your youth members want to do. Now, if you are in a pickle and there isn't someone that you can think of in your area, this is when you reach out to your scouting networks and someone might go, hey, actually, I know someone who lives in such and such, but is happy to be on a call and have a chat. Like we're doing tonight. I'm down in Sydney, but we're able to come and help you guys remotely up on the North Coast. So those kinds of things can happen. And having that support is really important to ensure the success of our youth members in their personal progressions and their personal growth. So remembering youth leading, adult supporting is really important when it comes to all of our goal setting in scouting, especially when it comes to the special interest areas. Now, one of the things that you will find with the special interest areas, especially with our younger members, you will need support from the parents. This is something that does happen outside of your meeting time. So having that conversation with the parents to say, hey, your youth member wants to achieve such and such. We might need you to help with them cooking something. We might need you to help them with a fundraising activity they want to do. But they need to be an active member in this journey, right? So as we remember, adult leadership is a lot higher when we're coming through the Joey and Cub Scout sections. And at the later end of Scouts, that's when the flip happens. And then in Venture Scouts and Rover Scouts, it's youth leading. I must say, as a Rover advisor, I am just being the sounding board and doing devil's advocate a lot. It's very fun watching the faces drop on 20-somethings. But having that is being that person makes them think wider, right? And thinking broader of what is possible has been really great because they don't know what they don't know. And that's really what our jobs as adults are, is to support them in that journey as well. So we've talked a bit about resources, so pr.scouts.com.au. Scouts Terrain. If your group isn't on Scouts Terrain yet and not actively using it, please, I encourage you to do so. There is a lot of fantastic information there, including guidance statements around a lot of different things to do with projects and the milestones, especially in the program essentials and the outdoor adventure skills spaces. Other Scouts around you, as I've said, in the local community, and your big blue handbook is also really important. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and then I get to see your faces again and see whether we've got any questions. Okay. So,
there's a couple in there from Joe.
Yeah. If you have a Benny that wants to get 2 spotted, can they wear bow badges on? You can wear You can actually wear a badge for every special interest area you complete. You have to have done, for Venture Scouts, you have to have done a minimum of 6 projects across 3 areas, right? So they can actually do 4 in one area and 1 in each other if you want. But they can wear both sports badges. And if you actually have a look at the uniform diagram that is on pr.scouts.com.au, you'll see they mark out the hexagon, and then they have these dotted line triangles on the sleeve as well. Those dotted lines are the extra special interest area projects if they want to do more than 6. So they can do more, and they can wear those badges on their uniform, but it's not a requirement. It's just 6. If they want to get their peak award, it's 6. If your youth member for some reason decides the outdoor adventure skills aren't for me, I want to get as many SIAs as possible, they can do that too. They're just not going to get to their peak award. That's fine, because the journey is a personal journey, right? So everyone's probably going to get to the base camp of program essentials, and these elements are that bit extra. Okay. Yes, RSL members, that's a great one, Sue. Okay.
I'm really excited to see where Grafton's going with this, the project that you guys are doing, getting the kids to Uluru.
Sounds
Very
good. I'm not
excited.
going, but they put up a photo in the group the other day that one of the local shops is behind them, and they've got a thing there, and new owners of the kebab shop.
Yeah.
Which I think's awesome in shopping centre.
Definitely.
Okay, I think I'm understanding the context of your question, Joe. Would you still need to speak to a venture parent? I would say definitely yes, knowing what ventures are like. They may need a kick up the butt sometimes. They should be able to be self-directed, but I've definitely had my fair share of, even myself I remember being a venture scout that age, where my dad would be like, okay, what are you wanting to do? When are you going to do it? And having that conversation, because it's just like, I had an idea in mind, but my time management skills weren't necessarily the best at that age. So they're things to keep in consideration. And so having those conversations, obviously Rover Scouts, that's a whole different thing, because they're over 18, they're adults, that they should be caring for themselves, but their awareness may be a bit all over the shop. Cool, great, that's fine. If they're things that they're automatically going to achieve because they have set goals and deadlines, usually they're okay. It's when they're doing other things that's the problem. So yeah, I appreciate that, Joe. So unless, yeah, pretty much, you're fine. How would you put, or can we use online games like Minecraft or Discord as an SIA? So definitely something like Minecraft, yeah. Yeah, they could totally do an SIA project around Minecraft. So especially it's things like Minecraft or Sims, things where they're world building games. I think that's the thing of like, I wouldn't necessarily build a special interest project around something like Halo. That might not be within the ethos of scouting to be a shoot-up game or Grand Theft Auto. But something like Minecraft, you could definitely build either as, it could fit into STEM, it could fit into arts and lit, depending on what they're wanting to build in Minecraft. I've watched some interesting social media videos where people are paid.
I've got one that's doing this sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so stop motion Lego, great idea, fantastic idea, really accessible for all the different age groups. But the idea behind doing a project, let's say Minecraft as the example, is okay, are they starting from 0 skill? This is where we're also, for anything, are they starting from 0 skill? Do they have a base knowledge? Are they actually quite advanced? So if they're starting from 0 skill, maybe you're getting them to build a house. If they're starting from medium, it might be something that's a bit more adventurous in terms of a landscape. And then if they have an advanced skill, then it's probably going to be a big castle or a city or something that they're building in Minecraft. So I've definitely seen some interesting videos on socials where you can see people are actually paid to build like per hour a Minecraft project. And so you can see per number of hours or per skill level what, even though they're the same brief, what those projects end up looking like. And it's pretty insane. So it's definitely something you could do in terms of a SIA project. Yeah. So does anyone else have any more questions at this point?
Kellyanne, I just noticed there was another question there about multiple projects. Did Cecilia answer that for you? It's just a bit up there.
Sorry, I couldn't see the chat while the PowerPoint was on.
No, I was just saying with that one, it was when you mentioned about how they can do multiple. So if they do 2 in the sports, they can wear the 2 sports, or if they do 2 in STEM, they can wear the 2 in their triangle. That's what that was about. I've been very hesitant about not so much putting them through, but putting them or giving them, because it's been the same sort of badge number. As you said, they could do 4 and then 2 in the other. I was always skeptic that we weren't allowed to do that. So that's where that got cleared up earlier.
Great. I'm glad to be able to clear that up. Yeah. So I because it's a bit of a Pokemon, got to collect them all. I've never really had a youth member like that. Some of them have wanted to potentially do projects that are related, but then we sort of have that conversation of, okay, is it something that fits into that category, or is it something that might fit into another category? So that's where the growth and development category in particular is really handy, because it's something that a youth member can push themselves in something they're already doing in a different way. But yeah, there's nothing stopping them having 2 in the 1 on their uniform, as long as they have done across the certain number of areas requirement, right? And that goes from 2 through to 4, depending on the section. So the SIAs on terrain, that is for their own records only at this point in time. There's been long-term conversations about what that may look like in terms of sharing ideas in the future, but I do not have an update on what that looks like. It may be a conversation I need to have with my powers that be to get an update from National about that. But yes, it's been a long-term conversation, that one. So I can tell you that conversation is still happening. Okay, I think that's, so covered that. Okay. I love seeing these Dick Smith leadership projects coming out. One of the units in South Met did the Larapinta, which is nuts. I'm like, you guys are in Scout. What?
Well, they've opened ours up to, because originally it was just going to be cops, but they're going to have 10 youth. So they've opened it up to all sections.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty cool, because now we've got the 4.
Yeah,
there's a bit of a mixture going.
Yeah, no, I really
and,
like the
parents and some leaders as well.
Yeah.
Just the hubby went, no.
Aww.
No, you got AJ. No.
That's kind of fair. So yeah, if no one has any more questions, I could see Joe was typing something. Feel free to keep typing if anything comes to mind. Also, I'll just put my email in there as well. If you do have any SIO related questions coming up in the future, please feel free to flick me an email. All good, Joe. So please feel free to click an email. My offsider, who's also State Commissioner Special Interest Areas, is Adele Lockman. So she's we're both based in Sydney, but I grew up regionally, so I understand what it's like in regional areas. and we're both very passionate about all 6 special interest areas. So if you do have any questions, we'll also be coming out hopefully in the next 12 months with a few different things to support you more, and hopefully I'll be able to set up some partnerships with some external organisations as well. So yeah, thank you all. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that I get to come up North Coast Way sometime soon.
Good.
Yeah.
You're always welcome.
So it's definitely God's country up there. So
it is.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
But thank you so much. Thanks, Tara, for inviting us to present.
Thank you for coming along.
It's been good.
Yep, definitely. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. I'll just stop the recording there now. I want to work out how to do it. There we go. That helps. It's been a long 2